I'm live, it looks like. How's it going, my friends? It is a Shan man, and doing a my very first live, I think, on YouTube. Well, it's not my first live, but it would be my first live in this particular format. And I'm just kind of seeing where this is going to go and whether or not this is going to be something that I will be doing over the course of the next, I don't know, maybe a couple weeks, maybe next month. I don't know. But we'll definitely see how it works out. And if you're joining in right now on the live stream itself, do me a favor and go ahead and leave a comment in the chat that is right there on your right hand side. And I'd love to hear from you. Let me know where you're from, and let me know what your podcast is all about if you are a podcaster, and what we can do to get you moving forward with your podcast. So just a little background on the reasons why I decided to go ahead and start this particular YouTube live, and me doing a lot more with YouTube live is because I get a lot of questions from people who are on my YouTube channel that ask questions regarding podcasting, whether it be about certain situations that they're in when it comes down to podcasting, whether they are in certain scenarios where they don't know whether or not their guest is going to be the best guest, or sometimes it's just very simple. It's like, what kind of music do I need to use, or what type of microphone do I need to use? So those are the things that I really, really try to answer the best that I can in the comments. And this really is all spawned based off of something that I'm already currently doing within my Facebook page. My Facebook page already, I'm already doing it for my radio station Facebook page, where I am communicating with people on a live stream already. So I know that it takes some time for people to warm up to the idea of live streaming and learning a little bit more about you. But this is something that I think is very important for you, the podcaster. I know that you may be podcasting. I know that you may be looking and thinking about maybe the monetization model, or how you can edit a lot faster. These are all questions that I get on this YouTube channel, and I want to be able to help you out. So again, I encourage you to go ahead and leave a message in the live stream chat that is on the right hand side of this particular video. I don't know how long I'm going to be on, but if you have questions, or maybe you have comments you want to share with me, I'll be more than happy to read those out to you live. I do this very much on my Facebook page for my radio station audience as well. So I'm very interactive with my audience when it comes down to it. So I'm just testing out really kind of what this is all about. And I figured, let's just go ahead and call this, a YouTube trial run, I guess. So we'll see where this all goes, and where it runs, how I run with it. So again, leave a comment on the right hand side, and I'll be more than happy to answer that question for you. So and there's just, I don't know, I might have to. This is all trial run. I'm going to maybe use software so that I could do a YouTube live. I don't know exactly where it's going to be, but let me know that you can at least hear me on here, so I can know whether or not my audio is coming in nice and clear. So I see Andy Lyons is here. Hi, Andy. How are you? It's so good to have you watching my YouTube live office hours for podcasters. So it's so good to see you, and I sound great. That's good. I'm glad that I sound great, and I'm able to broadcast with you. It's been a while since I've done something that is a little more professional. So hi, Dallas Robinson. Good to see you. Thank you so much for following the channel, and watching, and playing along with me right now in the live feed. I appreciate it. Let's see, Andy, you have a question. Go ahead and ask your question, and I'll be able to hopefully answer it for you when you shoot it on over. And Dallas, if you have a question as well, go ahead and let me know. Let's see here. I thought it was Dallas from Nashville, but that's Mrs. Suarez from Nashville. And I know who you are, I believe, Mrs. Suarez, because you reached out to me and wanted to know whether or not I did my YouTube videos in Spanish, and I don't. But I do have someone that I ran into just the other day through my travels in YouTube, and she asked me, or she was asking me questions about like how to do a YouTube channel and whatnot. And she says, I'm doing a YouTube channel on podcasting in Spanish. So what I recommend that you do, Mrs. Suarez, is that you go ahead and reach out to me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is at the Shan Man. I'll go ahead and, you know what I'll do is I'll leave it in the chat right here for you so that you can find it. So I think I can leave links. Let's see here, twitter.com/the Shan Man, and you can find me there, and I'll be able to I'll be able to help you with that particular YouTube channel. Okay, so let's see. And it's so good to see that you're from Nashville. That's so cool. And Nashville's such a cool town that I hear that it's something that I got to go visit every now and again. Also, I don't know if you guys can share this out with your friends. Share it out on your Twitter or on your Facebook or whatever. Share it out, and I'll be able to we can try to get some people who are on in here. So let's answer the question to Andy. Andy says, I have the worst time coming up with a title for your podcasts. So you're just having a hard time. Is that like, that's kind of a question, I guess. So let me kind of just jump in and give you the idea of how we come up with titles for our podcasts and the podcast episodes that we are creating. Okay. Now, I've created videos that talk specifically all about how to title your podcast episodes. And the way I look at it when it comes down to titling your episodes, kind of, if you're being strategic about it and you're being specifically strategic about wanting to get traffic, organic traffic back to your podcast, I look at it in this respect. We look at titling the podcast based off of search discovery, and the search discovery is going to be based inside of Google. Now, you're going to have two different types of show notes that you will be creating. So you're going to be creating show notes that are specifically for Apple Podcasts, and then you're going to create show notes that are a little more of a transcription that are going to be inside of your blog where you're posting your podcast. All right. And so what we want to do in terms of those titles is we want those titles to be something that people are commonly searching for inside of Google. All right. So, and you can figure this out very easily when you go inside of Google. And this is a really easy way to figure out the titles of your podcast. When you go inside of Google and you do a Google search, you type in maybe the keyword that you want to get discovered for. All right. So let's just say it is food truck entrepreneurship. You can go look up food truck entrepreneurship, and what you will see is the autocomplete come up inside of Google. And you will see the different topics that are being searched right there inside of Google based off the autocomplete. That's one way you can figure out the title of your podcast. All right. Now, you would want to make your podcast title to be not only searchable, but also clickable. So it's got to kind of have a little bit more of a kind of a magazine title vibe to it. All right. So you want to make sure that you're including those keywords, but you're also trying to make it look like as though it is kind of like a magazine title, not too magazine-y, but you want to be able to create a title that people are going to be searching for. That's the best way that you can do that. This is very similar to how I do it inside of my YouTube channel for my YouTube videos, is that when you stumbled upon my YouTube videos, you probably stumbled upon because you searched out specific keywords, and I may have come up specifically in YouTube based off of those keywords or suggested videos. This is very similar when it comes down to being discovered inside of Google. Now, when it comes down to the discoverability inside of Apple, it's a little bit different. All right. The discoverability is going to be based on some keywords, but it's all about the discovery of what your show notes are going to be all about. Okay. So this is going to be something that's going to be huge for you when it comes down to titling up your particular podcast. I hope that helps, or that gives you an idea, Andy. So let me know if that was something that answers your question. Let's see here. Let's see. I've got Austin Schrader. Thank you so much for joining on the live feed today. I really appreciate it, and it means a lot to me that you are here for the open office hours. If you have a question, Austin, go ahead and leave it in the comments section, and I'll be happy to answer it for you. Okay. I see Mystic Mac is here. Hi, Mystic Mac. Let me know where you guys are commenting from. I'd really love to hear where you guys are commenting from. It's always cool to see where you guys are. Let's see. Dallas Robinson. We do stuff, and we are a variety show on movies, music, games, and other random things. We have listeners for certain topics, but can't get people to be engaged with no content. Should we change? Well, here is the question. Here's the question that I have for you, Dallas. Is the question would be, what are you most passionate about in that series of things that you are most passionate about? I see movies, music, and games. What is the one thing that you and your podcast are very, very passionate about? You have to only pick one out of those. And when I say you have to pick one, It's not some magical thing that I'm telling you. It's like, oh, it's mystical and you have to only pick one. It's the best thing that you can pick. When you're picking one topic and you're picking one particular niche and you're really good at that niche, what happens is that people will gravitate towards you into your universe, and you'll be able to keep them engaged. All right. Now, when we're talking about keeping them engaged as far as listening is concerned, there's a whole other set of rules and performance techniques that can be utilized that I will share with you maybe a little bit in the future. But for right now, what I think you should focus on is you should really focus on focusing on one particular niche. That would be helpful. So tell me in the comments which niche you think would be the one that you know the most about and that you could talk the best about. That might be something that might help you out a little bit. And then we can kind of move forward to the engagement of the content and getting your content to grow over time. Okay. So I'll be looking for that here very, very shortly. So let me see. Andy Lyons. Yes, Google search is a terrific suggestion. Yeah. So when it comes to the titling of your podcast, definitely use Google when it comes down to it. Use Google in terms of the title of the podcast or the keywording of the podcast, Andy, and also make sure that you are including the guest's name inside of the title as well, because what will happen is that if that person does happen to get searched on Google, which, it's probably going to be one of those least likely topics that they are getting searched. But if someone just happens to search them and their name is inside of the title of the podcast, that should come up as the number one search or one of the top few searches inside of Google. So that's something that's important. It will also probably be something that shows up inside of Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Stitcher, anything like that. So definitely utilize the search tool. And I have some search tools that I will share here after a little while to let you know and maybe to give you some ideas of what kind of content that you can come up with. Let's see. What do we got here? Duncan Sports in New York. How's it going, Duncan Sports? So cool. Where in New York are you exactly? So good to see you here. Yes, definitely like and share this live feed out on your Twitter feed. That would really be helpful. Austin Schrader out of Denver. Denver's got to be gorgeous this time of year. Especially because right now it's like 112. It's Phoenix right now, and I actually have the air conditioner off in my bedroom. I have a portable air conditioner because it's very, very hot in my place. The walls in here, if you've ever heard my videos, you can hear there's a little bit of an echo, but it's because I have no treatment on the walls and my walls are brick. So that's something that I'm working on fixing. And in fact, I was in an elevator just the other day, and I was going to see a movie, and we got into the elevator, and they had those moving blankets on the sides, all three corners of the elevator. And we walked in, and it was almost dead silent. I thought, man, these are really good sound treatment blankets. So you go on Amazon, you look them up, and I think you can get them for about $20 or $30 for like maybe 4 or 5 of them. I think. And I thought, well, all I need is just some hooks, and I could just hang them on the wall, and it would start deadening the sound in here. That's what I thought. So it's something that I'm worth trying. So let's see. You're from Southwest Florida. It's got to be. Is it humid down there? Is it super humid down there? Let's see here. Austin Schrader asks, what are my thoughts about Anchor? Anchor has been doing a great job of stepping up the game and allowing people to come into their universe. However, I'm not a fan of Anchor. I'm a big believer in the fact that you should own all of the accounts that you're going to be submitting your RSS feed to. That's something that I think is very vital when it comes down to the control of your content. It's not necessarily the control that Anchor would have on your content. It's the control of the account. So it would be Apple Podcasts. It would be Stitcher. It would be not necessarily Spotify, because Spotify owns Anchor. But in the same sense, I would much rather have the control over those accounts. And the problem with Anchor is that when you sign up for free hosting with Anchor, yeah, it's cool to get free hosting, but what you're not getting are quality statistics that you can leverage later on down the line for monetization. And number two, you do not have the access to those particular, you don't have access to those particular syndication accounts like Apple Podcasts, Google Play, all that. You do not have that. Now, someone reached out to me the other day and said, yeah, you do get access to them. And I checked it out, and it's still not one of those things. You physically have to actually go into Anchor not into Anchor. You have to go into those syndication accounts and set up an account with them in order to have control. Apple has their own set of statistics that you can use, even though their statistics are very shoddy. They're not very well placed. Are still kind of in beta. Stitcher's okay as far as like statistics are concerned. Let's see here. Spotify. You can actually get your statistics of Spotify through a paid service like Libsyn. So it's better to have a paid hosting service so that you can get really nitty gritty down to the statistics, because the statistics will really leverage everything for you later down the line when it comes down to the monetization of your podcast. Okay. Let's answer some other questions. I hope that answers your question, Austin. If you have another question or a follow-up question, let me know. And that goes for the rest of you. If you have follow-up questions, you're more than welcome to ask them to me. How to radio ministry, now podcast ministry. That is so great to hear, Mystic Mac. Let's see here. I did invest in Libsyn. Thanks to you. Our podcast is about sailboat competitions and the dilemmas of the board when doing votes. How do I create a title that is searchable? Plus, we do interviews. So as I said, Mrs. Suarez, you're going to want to go in Google, type in the keyword that you want to title your podcast about. So whatever the podcast is about that day or that week, you want to type in Google, see what that keyword comes up with when it has the autocomplete come up on Google, and you should see all the keywords that people are searching for. So it's typically better to do your keyword research first before you record the podcast, because then you can really kind of maneuver the interview the way that you want to do it. So that's really what it is. It's not necessarily recording first and then titling the podcast. It's about doing the research of your keyword topic and your guest, and then titling it and then interviewing them, if that makes sense. Let's see here. What do we got? Andy Lyons, love the recommendation to use the guest name. Yes, definitely use the guest name. That will help you out completely. Again, if you're on this right now, also don't forget to leave thumbs up on the video. I forget that we're on YouTube and you can leave thumbs up on the video. It'll definitely help out. Let's see. What do we got? Do you like the Audio-Technica ATR 2100 microphone from Duncan Sports? Yes, I do like the ATR 2100. I've used it a couple of times, and it actually sounds very decent. It sounds just almost like this, Blue Yeti microphone. This is a $300 microphone when I bought it. And after I bought it, I thought, oh, I should have bought the ATR 2100, and that would have been much better. So that's something that I recommend that most people do, especially if you're getting started. But the equipment that I do recommend that you get, because everyone wants to do podcasting on the affordable, or if you want to call it on the cheap, and I get it. And I used to be the same way. And, I've had to hustle for my equipment. So it's nothing that I'm not special or anything like that. I've had to hustle for my equipment. So I've done extra freelance jobs and gigs just to get the equipment that I have. So I use the Yamaha MG10XU and this microphone, and I'm probably going to end up selling this microphone and getting maybe a better microphone itself. Would I ever downgrade to an ATR 2100? Yeah, if I had to, but it's not necessarily something that I want to do. I want to get a boom, but you can use a boom with the ATR 2100. It's definitely a good microphone. I would recommend that you use it. Okay. Let's see here. Same here. I own my content. Andy Lyons, I love Spreaker. They answer questions immediately. Very supportive. Automatically sends the podcast episodes to all major platforms and Alexa oops, my phone is over here. Oh, I said Alexa, or not Alexa. I don't know what I said, but my phone just went off. Sends to Alexa and voice demand. Yes, so Spreaker has a very good platform. I can't remember how Spreaker does their platform, but I think you can upload a certain amount of episodes, if I'm not mistaken, Andy. But after a while, you can only upload to a certain limit, and then you have to start removing episodes. I think that is what happens, but maybe you know that better than I do. What's the best free hosting service? There is no best free hosting service. Like, if you're going to talk about free hosting service, and Anchor is going to be the one, but this is the thing. When people use hosting service and they go to Anchor and they watch my video on, whether or not you should be using Anchor, they always go, wow, these are the problems that I'm running into. And this is why, and it's not saying that I'm not telling you to not use Anchor, but what you're going to end up doing, if you want to really make your podcast something serious, you're going to want to jump into some paid hosting. And now, I don't know why there hasn't been a platform like Google or Apple hasn't stepped into the game providing free audio hosting service. That's something that I just don't understand, but it should have been. But Anchor is the one that's stepping into the game with Spotify, but they just have not stepped up to the game as far as the control of the content and the statistics of the content. That's just something that I think is very important. It's just always going to be there, and you will never understand the gauge. You will never be able to gauge your success of your podcast if you're using statistics that are very basic, and that's just my opinion. Okay, let's see here. We'll go through. I post to my WordPress site with a link to the Libsyn file and supply the WP feed to iTunes. Some use their Libsyn feed for everything. Yes, some people do use their Libsyn feed. I do use the embedded player for my Libsyn feed, so I will put it inside of my posts whenever I do it. If it's on my particular website or if it's on someone else's website, like say for the radio station when I was doing my podcast, The Swing Shift Side Hustle, I was grabbing that feed and I was embedding it inside of the radio station's website itself. So that's what I would do. I wouldn't necessarily put the link, but you can put the embed file and it shows the player that comes up directly right there. Let's see. Oh, and you were asking for thoughts. So yeah, definitely. So Mike Handley, and let me know where you're from, Mike. I would definitely put the embed player inside of your WordPress site. Now you can actually download, I believe it is PowerPress by Blueberry. That's a hosting service, but you can download PowerPress. And what you can do is you can copy the link to the actual file, I believe that would be in Libsyn, and paste it into the PowerPress plugin. And then it would put an embedded player onto your website for your blog. So that's something that you can consider doing. Okay. I hope that if that doesn't answer your question, I'll try to re-clarify it for you, okay? And it's kind of difficult, I will say this, because I am doing this on live feed, and I want to be able to keep. I want to do this as a regular thing to help answer questions for all of you guys. So if there's something that I can answer, I'll try to my best to answer it. I know there's a better way to bring you guys in and ask questions so that it's not so like you're typing all the time. I want to be able to do it better, but for right now, this is just kind of how we're going to do it. And you guys supporting this live feed is going to help out tremendously. What type of audio mixer do I use? So I just answered that. So the audio mixer is the MG10XU. I'm going to go ahead and move my camera so you can see. So it's going to be a little weird. So you guys, so forgive me. So I don't know if you can see it. There's the MG10 in my candle. Here's the MG10XU. I don't know if you can kind of see it, but it's right directly next to me right here. So anytime that I am mixing sound, I can mix sound in real time if I want to. This is what I do at the radio station. So I'll do my podcast or I'll do my live broadcast, and I will mix sound live. So that's something that you can do. Sound that you set up on your mixing board doesn't have to always be set, because what you're going to discover when it comes to guests or when it comes to people who are on the phone or on a Skype call, you're going to discover that they like to pull away from the microphone, and you have to constantly tell them, come closer to the microphone. And then they get closer to the microphone, and then they pull away and they keep pulling away. So what happens, and to try to rectify that, you have to live mix yourself. So you're going to have to live mix, and sometimes you'll have to make adjustments. Sometimes you won't. That's going to be the same when it comes down to Skype calls. Sometimes you'll get someone who's on a phone call or on a Skype call, and their sound is like far away. So you might have to live mix. That's why I always have a live mixer on a stand next to me. There's an adapter that comes with this live mixer. So if you want the link for that, let me know. Reach out to me. Hit me up at info@theshanman.com, and I'll send you the link to not only this mixing board. Actually, you can just get the essential equipment guide, and it has all that in there. So if you're curious about the essential equipment guide, I'll help you out with that. Okay. Let's see. What do we got? Man, you guys are asking some great questions. This is amazing. I didn't think that I was going to be on for 23 minutes. I really didn't. So, and I hope that I'm not rambling. So I tend to ramble because maybe I'm a little nervous. I don't know. Let's see. Let me see did I read this one? What are your thoughts on starting a podcast network? Okay. So let's see here. So we'll read Dallas's question. What are your thoughts on joining or starting a podcast network? Thoughts on joining or starting a podcast network with starting one with other buddy podcasts. I don't see it as a problem. Starting a podcast network with other buddies. The only thing that you have to think about when it comes down to starting a podcast network with other people is their motivation and whether or not they're going to be equally as motivated as you are. And that's always a hard thing. That is something that is very difficult to really handle when you're looking for people to promote other your content, or you're trying to promote their content. It can be a little bit of a struggle because, people have lives, and I understand this. People definitely do have lives, and not everyone is always on the same page. Not everyone has the same motivations that you have. And so if your motivation is to grow your podcast and to make it into a monetizable piece of content over the course of week after week after week, then it's important for you to try to bring people into your network that are going to be equally as motivated. And so this may require you to step out of your comfort zone and get people who will come in that will be equally motivated. But if you're getting just some buddies that aren't really going to do it, it's probably not going to be the best for you. Okay. But I don't see a problem with doing it. I think you can gather more traction with your podcast if you do a lot more networking by inviting guests who have larger audiences and interviewing them, because what will happen is when you interview a guest, they tend to share out your podcast and drive traffic back to your podcast. So that's the important thing here that you have to think about, is that you're looking to drive the traffic back to your podcast. All right. Let's see here. What are my feelings about using Audacity? Now, I will say this about Audacity, and Audacity is not a bad tool to use. Don't get me wrong. I personally use Adobe Audition because there were things that I was looking for in terms of normalization, equalization, and compressions inside of Audacity, and they just did not exist. Or if they did exist, it was a longer process for me to use. And so, the one thing that I had wrong with Audacity is that it's like, well, it's open source software, and there's nothing wrong with open source software. I used open source software for vector files when I was creating artwork for different podcasts and everything. But eventually, when it came down to it years ago, I needed processes to be in shortcut form. So when it came to equalization processes, and of course it came down to smashing your sound and making everything sound as though the podcast was equal as far as sound was concerned. So what I'm talking about is when you get sound and you have, like, say, a piece of audio where maybe it's your voice and it's really loud like this, but then your guest voice is like this. And when you look at the audio file may have waveforms that are really loud whenever you get close to the microphone, and then you have another one where they're just barely even ticking. And what happens is that it's not necessarily the distance between you and the microphone, it's the mixing. And if you have everything mixed appropriately on your mixing board, then you should be able to go in and raise those pieces of sound, those individual pieces of sound, to where everything is at the same decibel level. This is something that I teach constantly in my training courses. That I say, hey, this is the step. This is a crucial step, because what happens when we go in, we listen to podcasts in our stereos or in our headphones, we hear those podcasts that have really weird audio. They typically start out here, and like you hear the music and it's really loud, and it's the intro music, and then you hear, hi, welcome to the podcast where blah, 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 blah. And today we're talking about, and it's like they get further and further away from the microphone. And this is a poor microphone technique, but it's also like, it's mixing, and a lot of it has to do with the post-production of everything. So Audacity does not have those. Well, it has those functionalities, but they're a little more manual. And to me, I just did not have the time to sit there and do it manually. I wanted to pump out more content over time. So I got into Adobe Audition, and literally it's like 2 clicks and it's over with. And I don't have to do anything ever again. And then all it is a matter of just mixing and then just moving pieces of audio back and forth. It takes me literally like anywhere between 10 to 15 minutes to edit an hour-long podcast, depending on whether or not I want to make cuts or edits inside of my audio. Okay, let's see, what do we got here? I hope that answers your question. And don't think that I think any of the software is bad. If you're just starting out and you don't have the money to get like a Creative Cloud Suite subscription, that's totally fine. But you will learn over time that you're going to need more resources. And if you know how to use those resources, then you'll be able to justify using that software, and it's just not money that you're throwing down the drain. Okay. What do we got? Thanks for the questions, guys. You guys are amazing. I love it. Let's see here. Do you know how to, from Duncan Sports, let's see here, Fancy Smancy, do you know how to change a video into an audio file on your phone? Let me see. Do you know how to change a video to an audio file on your phone? So I from what I'm assuming, or from what I'm gathering on that question, what you're asking is, can I pull the video and just have the audio itself, if I'm correct? There is software. Let me grab my phone here real quick and let me see. There is software that you can use, but it's not mixing software, but you can pull the audio out. It's just going to be a little bit different, but at the end of the day, you're going to have to pull it into an Audacity or an Audition to end up pulling it down as an MP3. But there is a piece of software that you can use, that I do use for some of my videos when I'm running in a pinch and I don't have time to record my weekly videos. And it's something called Video Leap. And Video Leap is for iPhone. I can't remember if it's for Android at all, but it's such a useful tool. And I've been able to just take out the audio or take out the video and just, kind of turn the opacity down on the video and then just have it turn into audio, and it mixes it down as an MP4, but I still need to convert it over to an MP3. So you're still going to have to use Audacity or Audition in order to get the MP3. All right. Let's see. Thank you for that question. I hope that answers your question, Duncan. Let's see. By the way, thanks for all your YouTube videos. I just published episode 4. We should give Mike a round of applause for getting up to episode 4. I'd love, Mike, to see you come back and saying that you're up to episode 10, up to episode 20. Andy has been doing it for a while, and she's been doing really well and continues to post her podcast out. So let's give a big round of applause for Andy. I know we're doing it behind the scenes, right? Let's see here. Mr. Mac, seriously simple podcasting plugin. I've never used that plugin. I'm not even on WordPress anymore. I use a Kajabi site because Kajabi is all part of my business model for monetization. So you can use multiple third-party applications and websites, but at the end of the day, if you're using third-party applications for a website, that will allow you to create a particular, I don't know, maybe a membership site or maybe whatever it may be, you're going to be spending the same amount of money using those third-party applications, but having to struggle connecting the APIs back and forth with each other. So that's just something that you have to think about and consider. Okay, I'm going to answer a couple more questions and then jump off, but I'm not quite yet because I see a lot of you guys still commenting. Let's see. Big congratulations to Mike Henley from Andy Lyons. Yes, Audacity aligns the sound beautifully for me. Palangi Palang. Hello, I had a question, a beginner podcaster. Okay. Which one is better for online interviews, Skype or Google Hangout? Well, for this right now, it's going to be Skype. Skype's going to be the best one, but Google Hangouts is something that is going away. It's actually going away here really, really soon. And I'm not even using Google Hangouts on YouTube right now. It's something called youtube.com/webcam. It's live streaming. And years ago, and Andy is very familiar with this because she and I used to hang out on Google Plus many years ago. They had Hangouts, and Hangouts used to be able to handle a lot more in terms of, I guess, creating an interview-based, podcast. Excuse me. Since then, it's just not really all that great, and it's got a lot of bugs in it. And in fact, I just got a notification when I went live here. It said that it's going away, so it will be going away here real soon. So my recommendation to you, in order to do your podcast interviews, is that I have two, and there's one that's going to be a little more easy, and you can use Zoom. Zoom.us. Zoom.us is a website that is very similar to using Google Hangouts. The only difference is that you cannot have an audience watching the interview. It's just a one-on-one interview. And what Zoom does, and Andy does this herself. She does this herself. What you can do is you can record the podcast interview on Zoom, and then they make an audio file for you. All right. And then you can utilize that as a podcast. Now, the only thing about Zoom.us is that the bit rate of the recording is going to be a lot lower. So you're not going to be getting a clear sound from the interview. It's not going to be as clear. Now, that's one way to do it. The other way to do it is by doing it through a mixing board like I have here. And this is the way that I recommend that you do it, because I like to have the speaker, the host audio, to sound really, really clear. And then I'm a little more lenient on the fact that the guest audio is a little less lower quality, because that's going to be expected. That's what's expected in radio when we do interviews on radio. So, I have a whole setup on YouTube that talks about, Google or Skype interviews. So if you want to go look that up, or I'll try to leave a comment after this live feed to let you know how to do that. That's just the other way too. But Zoom.us, if you're on a budget, that's the way to go. All right. Let's see here. Cyrus Gill, how recommendation on video podcast software. Well, it depends on the software that or the system that you're using. If you're using a Mac, I would recommend using Ecamm. Ecamm is going to be a good one, but it is a paid service. They're all going to cost money to a degree. A lot of people like to say that they are using OBS, but OBS, again, falls into that free software, open source software, and it's got a lot of bugs. So, and I hear more people having trouble with it more than ever. So your next step would be either to use Ecamm, or you could use Wirecast, but Wirecast costs a lot of money. And I've got Wirecast, and to be honest, I don't even use Wirecast. So it's just going to depend. And of course, when you're using video podcasting software, you need like multiple bodies so that they can switch between cameras. All right. I hope that answers your question, Sai. What do we got here? Savvy BG. How's it going? Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate this very, very much. Let's see. I'm losing my place here. Will you do a video on how to connect a mixer for podcasting, or I need a mixer at all? I already got a video on that. W Daniels 31. I already got that one on my YouTube channel. Go look up the basic podcasting setup and then my name in YouTube, and that should come up for you. Okay. And if you're just joining, go ahead and leave a thumbs up on this video so that people can see that it will show up in the live feed a lot more. Let's see here. Let's see here from Mike Henderly. Thank you, Andy. I will record, edit, and publish using my iPad Pro. I have a Zoom H6. Zoom H6 is a wonderful piece of equipment. It's definitely a wonderful piece of equipment. Let's see here. 35 episodes for Andy. So good for Andy. That is awesome. And Andy's just been killing it. She's been killing it. She called me last year, actually, looking for information on podcasting. She's just taken the reins and done it all on her own. So that's a really cool thing. Let's see. What do we got? Andy, I'm gonna show your link, Andy. There's a link to Andy's. I just showed the link to Andy's podcast. So there it is. Mrs. Suarez, if you have questions, go ahead and leave a question down below, and I'll try to answer it for you. Startup live show with Andy Lyons. Okay, yeah, there we go. How many cameras and what is the best angle for recording a 3-person podcast? That's really going to be kind of up to you, but you definitely want to have one that is a prominent video, I would say, on your guest. If you're going to be doing a guest interview, it's got to be a prominent one that's on your guest. And then, of course, you're probably going to have one on yourself. Now, if you're doing a 3-person interview, it just is really all going to depend. I mean, this is going to be a lot of money that you will spend. Just understand that. But if you can get the angles, just head-on angles are great. It just depends on your setup too. I mean, if you look at multiple video podcasts that are out on YouTube, you can see like the cameras up here, some cameras are down here, some cameras are off to the side. It just really depends on your setup. Some of the setups are like you don't have very much space, and that's the thing. So you got to determine this what your space is. All right. So just kind of use your best judgment on that. All right. Let's see. I hope that helps out, Dallas. Let's see. What do we got? I interview all my guests using Zoom. Yes, Andy uses Zoom. Then I convert them to MP3. Someday I'll use the mixing board. Too scary for me now. Yes. So Andy, you'll get there. You'll get there one of these days. Don't mind the paid service. Thanks, Ecamm. Yes, Ecamm. Go grab that. And of course, here's what I'm going to do for you guys. Go ahead and share your podcast in the link down below or in the comments down below. I'll go ahead and approve those to show up inside of the live feed for you guys today. And we'll just go ahead and do that. Let's see here. Drawinginspiration.fm. Mike, can you put the prefix on that, the HTTP for us, so that we can go ahead and make sure that it shows up, and I'll make sure that it shows up in the live feed. Thank you for watching all the videos, Andy. I really appreciate it. I know you're like one of my biggest fans, or they're right there. You're one of my biggest fans, and I love it. I echo Andy's comment. Yes, thanks for all the hard work. Yes, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you guys even watching the YouTube channel. There you go. Mike Hendley, I think is how you say your name. I have both Audacity on and Audition. Which do you prefer? From Vinny Coos. Vinny, number one, I won't answer the question unless you tell me where you're from. I'm just kidding, man. But tell me where you're from anyway. It'd be cool to see where you're from. You have both Audacity and Audition. I prefer Audition. What I recommend that you do is that you just start learning Audition. The way I learned Audition, honestly, and this is the way I learned all my audio editing programs, and this is the God honest truth, I just went into the help menu on the particular platforms, and I just started reading about everything and learning all about how to mix sound. And that's how I started learning how to mix sound. Then from there, I learned my own processes. And then when it came down to producing podcasts, I was like, well, I can't edit podcasts for an hour or longer. This is just a big pain. I cannot do this. So I started developing my own podcast process based off of what I already knew in radio. So this is that's why I have my Design a Podcast training course, because it just basically teaches you how to create your podcast with templates is all it is. So that's how you do that. Mrs. Suarez, I'm going to show your link. There we go. You're in Fort Lauderdale. Are you going to be going to Podcast Movement, Vinny? Because Podcast Movement is happening in August, and it might be a great opportunity for you to go and meet some podcasters and see where they're coming from on that. Okay. Let's see. What do we got? Does that answer your question? Audacity. Andy uses Audacity. She likes it. I prefer Audition because there's a lot more usability, and it makes you edit your podcast much faster once you learn how to do it. Okay. And give you the quality that you're looking for. Okay. Thank you so much for those who are joining right now into the live feed. I appreciate it. Share this live feed out if you've not done so on your Twitter feed, and let people know that we're doing live feed office hours, open office hours. Not a mom. I saw that you were asking me about Podcast Movement. When you go to Podcast Movement, if you run into Jared Easley or Dan Franks, those are two of my friends. And I spoke at the second Podcast Movement, and I talked about basically at that Podcast Movement, I talked all about how to create a podcast that is monetizable with sponsorships. And that was something that kind of blew everyone's mind out of the water. So, and now everyone's talking about monetization through sponsorships, but there are other ways you can monetize your podcast. And so ultimately, at the end of the day, for all of you podcasters that are out there, when it comes down to you wanting to monetize your podcast, you have to build the audience. That's going to be the most important thing that you got to do. And I mentioned this in my 6 clever ways to monetize a podcast ebook that is on my website. I talk all about developing the content and developing the content and developing the content and positioning yourself as the expert within your niche. Now, we had a question earlier about, should I do a podcast based off of games, music, and movies? Which one should I pick? Well, you should just pick one and be really good in that niche. And you have to think about this from the perspective of when you go to purchase certain things online, or you go to let's say physical locations. If you wanted to go to an electronics store, you would either go, back in the day, you would probably go to Radio Shack if you needed something very niche as far as those electronics were concerned. But if you were just looking for computers and TVs and appliances and just very basic, it was more higher end stuff, but it was like, you got it. You went to Best Buy, and that's what they focused on. But let's say you wanted to go buy clothes. You couldn't buy clothes in a Best Buy. So you went to your either a Gap, an Old Navy, a Miller's Outpost, wherever you may be. So think of your podcast like that. Be really good at one thing. And within that one thing, you can maneuver. It's just be really good at talking about that one thing, if that makes any sense. All right. Let's see. What do we got? Have I ever used Alphonic? Yeah, I have used Alphonic, but I wasn't a fan of it. And it does a lot of the same things that Adobe Audition does, but they charge. But let's put it this way: Alphonic's gonna, I think, charge for it. Is from what I remember, they charge for certain, things. I forget the mix downs and whatnot. Those are all things that you can do inside of Adobe Audition that you're going to be producing a podcast every week. It's well worth the money for me to have Adobe Audition if I know how to do Adobe Audition and just mix everything down without all those little extra added, things that Alphonic's going to charge you for. But, if you like Alphonic, I'm going to say don't use it, because if that's something that you like to use, great. But you have more flexibility when you're using something like Audacity or Audition, more flexibility, especially with Audition. All right. Let's see here. Yes, Samo. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and do these maybe once a week. I want to connect and communicate more with you guys so that we can get started and try to, I guess, build some interest and really kind of learn more about you and your podcast and where I can help you grow with your own podcast. Really helping you. I want to help you step outside your comfort zone, really. We all tend to, as podcasters and content creators, we tend to step into a comfort zone and not want to come out of it. And that's what I want to help you do. I want to help you come out of the comfort zone and try brand new things that will help you grow your podcast. I'm glad, Samo, that the content has helped you out immensely. So if you're just joining, go ahead and share this live feed out on your Twitter feed, on your Facebook, wherever. And I would be more than happy to just, get the sub to the subscription, hit the subscribe button on this page right here. Andy, just followed you everywhere. You glow. Mike Hendley. Yes, Mike. Mike, follow me on Twitter at I think I've left my link right there. We'll do that. Let's see here. Any tips on hosting a podcast solo? When you're doing a well, let me ask this question, Daddy Daycare. When it comes down to your podcast solo, are you talking about just doing a podcast where you're reading something, or you're actually just ranting, or not necessarily ranting, but just kind of sharing your thoughts? If I were to give you any tips on doing a podcast that is solo, it should be something that is a little more structured. If you're just going to ramble on and on and on and on, it's probably not going to keep the attention of your audience. So we have to remember that we want to keep the attention of our audience. So you would want to structure out your podcast a certain way. And from week to week to week, you're going to want to have specific titles or specific things you're going to want to talk about, because those are the things that people are searching for. If you missed out what I was talking about earlier on how to title your podcast, go back after this live feed is over with and find that. I can't remember it. If you can find the timestamp earlier in this particular chat, you should be able to find where I was talking about it. And Andy asked about titling a podcast. So just if you can answer me your question, like in what respect are you talking about hosting your solo podcast? Not a mama. Any advice, tips on less than ideal or not do quite space? Let me see here. Any advice / tips on less than ideal or not so quiet space? I think that's what you mean. Not so quiet space at home. I get this question asked a lot, and this is, I think, one thing that it kind of cripples most podcasters. They're very excited to start their podcast. They're so into the idea of starting their podcast, but then they say, "Yeah, but I have a lot of noise. I have traffic that is next to me. I've got a crying baby in the background, or I got dogs barking in the background." When it comes down to you recording your podcast, the standard is going to be set for you. Now, me, when I'm on the radio live every night or every day, and someone comes into my studio and they're screaming, I don't care, because to me that adds to the element of of my broadcast itself. Now, like if I were to do a podcast today and I was recording my podcast, The Swing Shift Side Hustle, and today's 112 degrees, there's no possible way that I'm going to not go with both air conditioners going on. Right now, I have one air conditioner off. So I would be recording, and I would just say, look, it is summer, it is warm. Just understand this is a thing. And if it's not something that is really, really loud, that's completely okay. For the most part, most of my podcast interviews, you can barely even hear the air conditioner going on. I mean, in fact, the air conditioner is on right now, and you probably kind of hear a little bit of a noise floor, but I'm not going to worry too much about that. It's fine. As far as finding a space is concerned, just find a space. If you're going to be doing it with two people, find a space where two people can go ahead and maneuver, and you can have those podcasts. I've heard podcasts being recorded in garages, and they're top podcasts. There's a podcast that I listened to where I forget the name of it, but it was a weightlifting podcast, and they were in their garage, and you could hear the garage. You can hear dogs. You can hear traffic going by. So don't let the sounds really kind of keep you from doing your podcast. Do your podcast. We're not doing broadcast style. I mean, we are doing broadcast style podcasting, but you don't have to follow the rules of like the FCC or a radio station. And half the time, most radio stations are cool with people like coming in and making noise. So don't get into your head too much about the sound or the noise. I had a friend, not a friend, but a guy in India reached out to me, and he said that his traffic was like right next to him. And I said, man, I would use that to my advantage. I definitely would use it to my advantage. I've done recordings at concert venues. If you go back and listen to my podcast, The Swing Shift Side Hustle, I do like a bunch of interviews in concert venues where there's music in the background. And those are some of the better podcast interviews. So try not to get too much into your head about that. Let's see. What do we got? Let's see here. I'm going overtime with you guys. I'm going to go for about another 10 minutes, and then I'm going to split, and then maybe we'll do this again. I'm thinking either next Wednesday or next Tuesday. Let me know which day would you prefer that I do it, either Wednesday or Tuesday. I will probably do it around this time, the same time. So I'm thinking like 4:30 Pacific. Maybe I could do it at 5, because I do work at 7 p.m. Every night. This week, I'm actually working for someone else's shift. So I'm able to do this, and I have a little bit more time. Let's see here. Michael Kroos, I think is how you say your name. Thoughts on Anchor FM? I just answered this question a little earlier in this particular live feed. You might want to go back and watch that, but my recommendation is to not use it and to use paid hosting. And my reasons are earlier in this live feed. So I would recommend you go back and look at that. Start a membership community through Kajabi. Are you asking me to start a membership through Kajabi? Is that what you're asking me? Sorry for typos. I have 6 parrots. That's totally fine, not a mama. You have 6 parrots. That's amazing. Let's see. Yeah, and we do want to know. Gabriel asked a great question. Do they talk? We want to know if they talk. 3 of 6 talk. Oh, they do. Okay, so I'm just catching up with you guys. Sorry about that. Wednesday is best for me. It's right before I record. Okay. I'll try to do them either Tuesday or Thursday, or Tuesday or Wednesday. We'll see what happens. I haven't decided yet. If you guys are not on my YouTube or on my email list at theshanman.com, I recommend you get on that, because what I think I will do next week is I will send out an email reminder letting you guys know when I will be on. Okay. Do I have any opinions on Spreaker? Yeah, my opinion. I think Jason Weird Reads. I know who you are, friend. How are you, man? It's good to see you, friend. My thoughts on Spreaker. I have no problem with Spreaker. I think it's great. Andy uses Spreaker. And it's something that I think she is happy with. In fact, her podcasts all sound great on Spreaker. So I don't think it's a problem at all. They give great statistics from what I understand. They give great service. So my top three are Spreaker, or it's going to be Libsyn, Blueberry, and Spreaker. Those are my top three hosting platforms that I would recommend that you use. Okay. Wednesday. Yes, very cool to see you, Jason. I love when you leave comments on my YouTube videos. And I will tell you this, guys, comments on my YouTube videos help out so much. And it's just not because I'm like comment hungry and I'm looking for, the accolades. I'm not really looking for that. What I am looking for is that you leave valuable comments, because what happens inside of YouTube is when someone sees those comments, it helps distribute those videos to other people who are looking. I get, on average per day, I believe I get close to 1,000 views on my YouTube channel just specifically for podcasting. So the more that you guys comment and contribute to the comments, the better that it helps out with distributing those videos out. So I do appreciate you guys leaving comments on those videos. Okay, so let's see here. Oops, sorry about that. I'm over here kicking the camera tripod. What do we got? Dallas Robinson, a few other people from Florida. Florida's a hotbed for podcasting. They are a hotbed for podcasting. Andy, love the customer service and the ease of use on Spreaker. So there's a great testimonial right there for you, Jason. You are doing a tremendous job, Shannon. It's not easy to chat and read, answer comments. Yes, it's very difficult. If you guys have ever watched my YouTube or I'm so confused. If you ever watch my Facebook lives on my Shanman page for my radio station, it's even faster. I do it a lot faster. I get more in depth, and those are only 20 minutes long. I keep them very, very short. So it's all part of a strategy that I use, and I think that podcasters should be using when it comes down to live feeding. I don't recommend that podcasters use live feeding on Facebook for their podcast. When it comes to YouTube, there is a different strategy that goes in behind it, because I know that is something that does exist. But we have to remember that some of the statistics that come out for YouTube, if you're going to be doing live streaming, you got to make sure you're driving that traffic to your live stream. But if you're just recording your video and you're uploading it into YouTube, it's a little bit different. Most YouTube videos are consumed that they're only consumed about to the 3-minute mark, and then people drop off and then they're done. So if you're trying to put a podcast on YouTube, it's not the best thing to do, because you're not getting the traffic that you deserve, that you should be utilizing YouTube strategically for your podcast. It's the whole reason why I do my live feeds like this, or my videos on YouTube. It's why you see my videos only 6 to 10 minutes long. I'm utilizing it for a whole different purpose. So that's just something that you should consider. Let's see here. Michael Cross, let's see here. The comments go pretty fast. I might have to do like a link, and then like you guys ask the questions, then I'll be able to find them inside of the Google Doc. Let's see here. Michael Crosto, you said you should speak at Podfest in Orlando next March. Well, I was asked to speak at Podcast Movement this August, but I already took a trip out to Irvine, California, to a different conference, and that conference was all with the intention of helping people monetize their podcasts, and it was helping me learn more about that. So that's why I went to that conference. It was a little more sales oriented, but not in like a sleazy way. It was a little more towards the content side and helping content creators develop content that they can monetize. So that's why I went to that one. So I probably will make a circle back to a podcast movement or a Podfest. And so I do know that there are people out there. I know people who can get me in contact with someone at Podfest. We'd have to see what happens. What do we got here? Duncan Sports. Should my podcast have my face on it? That's really going to be kind of up to you. I mean, I've learned how to create artwork a little bit better these days. I now utilize the Adobe Cloud Suite, so I know how to use Adobe Illustrator. I know how to use Photoshop a little bit better. And then of course, I've already known how to use Adobe Audition better. So I've gone head deep or head first inside of those platforms to create better content, especially when it comes down to creating podcast artwork. You can have your face on it. It's okay. I mean, you don't have to be an artist. What I do and if you guys have ever seen I can't really show it here. If you've ever seen my on my videos, I say like, hey guys, today we're going to be talking about blank, 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 blank. That's all coming up next. And then it's got the title card, and that picture of my face is up. That was all taken with my iPhone. And I use on my iPhone, I use what is the function? Let me show you. I can tell you right now. I use the portrait mode. And I think Android devices they have a portrait mode too, where it creates a depth of field behind you where it looks like a professional photo. So I've done that. That artwork was all created on my phone. My entire website was all created, as far as the graphics were concerned, on my phone. And I'm about ready to start working on developing better graphics for my website, but I will still use my phone to create those pieces of artwork. I have a photo school that I have created on my website that talks all about how to create basically artwork inside and take great photography with your phone for podcasters. So if that's something you're interested in, reach out to me. Let's see, what do we got? And I'm so glad you guys have been sticking around. It's so great. I love it. Hope you would start a podcast membership community through. Oh yes, I am going to be toying with the idea of a podcast membership through my Kajabi site. When that does come, I will let you know, Sai. So if you guys aren't on my email marketing list, go ahead and jump on there and subscribe, and I will let you know when I decided to go ahead and do a membership community, because I will go further in depth. I'm not giving you all the nuts and bolts here because there's so many questions, and there I think I can be able to answer more questions for you guys. I plan on doing a live feed of me drawing. My podcast is about drawing, so it kind of makes sense to supplement the audio podcast. So here's what I would do, Mike. This is how I would do it. So if you have a video that you're doing drawing, and I have a friend that does this. She does it actually on Twitch, believe it or not. And she is a phenomenal artist, like in her own style. So I'm sure you're a phenomenal artist as well. And she will draw all of her stuff, right? And she'll just do a Twitch feed where she's just drawing all of her stuff. And what she'll do as a supplement to that is that she'll post some of that artwork onto her Instagram feed. She'll say like, do you want to see me draw this entire video or this entire piece of artwork? Watch this video. Link is in the description or in the bio or something like that. And then it takes them directly. So this is all about driving traffic from one place to another. And ultimately, at the end of the day, if you're trying to deliver a message, or you're trying to get eyes on something, you're trying to drive traffic, you have to be strategic in what pieces of content that you're trying to get people to, all right? Let's see. Floho, what's up? My client makes his podcast by video and wants to make the audio accessible through iTunes and podcast. How would he do that? You would probably just need to pull the video and drag it into Audacity or Audition and then turn it into an MP3. That's the best way to do that, okay? You can hook me up for Podfest. Well, you let me know. I would be. I mean, if I can afford to fly out there, yes, that would be a huge thing. Let's see. Would you recommend or have any info about Buzzsprout as a podcast host? Buzzsprout is another good hosting service. I have no problem with it. I've never used it, so I can't really give you straight answers. But anyone that I have heard that has used it doesn't have a problem with it. I just try to stick with the top three: Spreaker, Libsyn, and Blueberry. Libsyn being my number one, Blueberry being my number two, and Spreaker being my number three. So those are the top three that I would use. Yes, Brayberg. I use Snapseed. Exactly, I use Snapseed. Snapseed. I think Snapseed is a wonderful piece of software for your phone, given that you're using something for your phone. You can do a lot more in Lightroom, but I would say Snapseed for phone is pretty decent. Let's see here. Mrs. Suarez, how long does it take to get on iTunes through Libsyn? So this is how it works, is that when you set everything up through Libsyn, then you're going to have to submit that RSS feed into iTunes, and it's all going to be determined whether or not iTunes approves it. And if you have everything set up correctly inside of Libsyn and then submit it over to iTunes, then it can take anywhere between, I've had podcasts that I've done for clients submitted, it's taken like a day, and then like I submitted my own podcast and it's taken like 10 days. So it just depends, if you're going to be doing a launch and you're going to be doing a big bang and splash into the podcasting space, make sure that you're planning out for at least 2 weeks. That's my suggestion. There are other people that will tell you differently. You can listen to them too, but I just know that it depends on whether or not the person's actually sitting there at the desk at Apple. And that's a literal thing. There's someone literally manually approving podcasts over at Apple. So that's just something that you have to think about. Okay. Let's see. Could you do a review? Could you review a YouTube channel for a podcast? Neanderthal podcast. Let me see. Let me reread that again. Could you review a YouTube channel for a podcast? Yeah, I mean, you could. I mean, if you're asking me if I created a podcast where I reviewed a YouTube channel, yeah, you could do that. I mean, I don't see a reason why you couldn't do that. I mean, if you want, clarify that question for me before I jump out of here, because I see we're coming up on the hour mark, and I want to be able to answer that question before we jump out. So here's where I am going to share some calls to actions with you guys. So reach out to me on my website, and definitely jump onto my email list at theshanman.com. And if you're a new podcaster and you need details on and maybe options for different podcast equipment, grab my essential equipment guide. That should be in the description down below of this video that you should be able to check out. If you want to monetize your podcast and learn more about it, you want to get serious about monetizing your podcast, I have the link for that down below. I have all these links down there below that will all help you out tremendously. Okay. That's something that I really, really want you to do. Let's see here. I'll answer 2 more questions and then we'll call it a day. Let's see here. We'll answer Bayerberg. What do you think about chopping up one long podcast episode into smaller clips and marketing the whole show by posting clips as YouTube clips and or SoundCloud tracks? So this is what I would do, Bayberg. That's a great idea. What you're talking about, it's wonderful. In fact, this is a strategy that a lot of people use. So what you're going to do is you're going to get a big piece of content, right? You got that big piece of content, and then you can splinter that piece of content off into multiple different pieces of content. But where I would make it different is I would take those different pieces of content, turn them into audiograms. And I have a video on YouTube that talks all about audiograms and how to build out audiograms. And I think, if you haven't checked that out, go look up Shannon Hernandez audiograms. And I have, I think, a 4-part series that talks all about promoting your podcast that way. Create those audiograms, post them inside of Instagram. And then from there, what you can do is you would have to strategically put those videos there and strategically place hashtags in there. If you don't know how to use Instagram, I do recommend that you check out my friend Jen Herman. I think it's just JENNHERMAN. Andy Lyons knows her. And she's got training courses on, how to utilize Instagram for your, for your content and all that. So I would recommend doing that. Let's see here. Marketing the whole show by posting clips as YouTube clips. So the thing is here, Bayberg, also, I'll just kind of give you a little insider tip of what we do in radio. We do something very similar. So we have our morning show where the morning show has a 5-hour morning show, right? And most radio stations have that. And then what ends up happening is we create these things called recyclers. And what a recycler is basically it's recycled content from that day's show or from, at some point in which the morning show had done their broadcast. And we run that recycler in our normal programming so that we can drive traffic to either download our app or listen on the weekends or anything like that. Podcasters can do the same exact thing when they're pushing content out. So we, as a radio station, utilize that. We kind of eat our own dog food, and so we can get the ratings. But you, as a podcaster, it's different. We need to promote the content to get it to come back to us. So I would create audiograms or pieces of content that will drive traffic back, and those would be kind of like a recycler. So what you're talking about when it comes down to chopping up one long piece of podcast, one episode, I would definitely do that, and then just figure out a way to schedule it out or push it out. There's a tool that you can use. It does cost money. I think it is $100 a month, and I know that might not be in your budget, but it's a wonderful tool. It's called Agora Pulse, and it will, I think, automatically post to Instagram if that's the case. Just that's something to think about and look into. Okay, I hope that answers your question. If not, just let me know. Neanderthal, I see that you posted a link. Or let me see here. What did you say? No, my bad. Could you look at my channel and tell me how to make it better? Maybe next time we can try and do that. Might be able to help you out. I'll just go ahead and I'm going to show this comment here. Scene 708. Thanks for answering my question. Cheers, man. Looking forward to the next office hours. Yes, I will do another office hours. Jump on my email list, and I will let you know when the next office hours is for you guys. I appreciate all of you guys for jumping in and asking your questions and communicating with me. And of course, you guys are more than welcome to ask me any other questions that maybe are, something not podcast related, or maybe it's content related. I'm more than happy to help you all out the best that I can. Cy Gill, thank you so much for everything. I appreciate you jumping in, and you too, Andy Lyons and Mike Hendley. It's very cool to see a lot of these names in person, in the sense, right, in the chat. So that's a very cool thing. And again, just reach out to me on my website, theshanman.com, or on Twitter at theshanman. But the best way to find out when these are going to be happening, jump on the email newsletter list, and I will definitely let you know when I do these. Okay. In the meantime, you guys have been awesome. Thank you so much for being here, asking your questions. I honestly thought I was going to do this for about 20 to 30 minutes, and you guys put me to an hour and 4 minutes. So it means that you guys are very interested and have a lot of inspiration to create better content for yourself. So, and I want to do my best to help you grow and build your own podcast. So thank you guys so much. Bayberg, thank you for the shirt compliment. I got this one. And then just last night, I got a Static X t-shirt because they were here in Phoenix playing. So I had a friend, she got me one just as a gift. So that was kind of a cool thing. Jason, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And let's stay tuned. I'm going to try and release a new video tomorrow. So stay tuned to the channel. Hopefully I get a new video out for all of you guys. And of course, leave a thumbs up. You guys are awesome. Have a great rest of your evening, and we will talk to you soon. All right. See you guys.